All right, and welcome to Let Freedom Ring. Um, I just want to address one thing before we get going. I did survive the attack from Soapy Pre-op the other day. We're going to get more into that later this week. We will have security on set at the Merrimack Studios. But with that being said, my guest this week, Jill Stackhouse-Frechette. Jill, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you coming on. Me and Jill go back a little ways, former co-workers, so good to connect again.
Yeah, it's very good. And thank you so much for meeting me virtually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, when we first started the show, we had no intentions of it being a virtual show, and then COVID hit. So it was like we didn't have a choice. Yeah.
No, no. And it's weird, like all the different pivots we've all had to make because of the pandemic, but it's working. I mean, as best as it can work.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's definitely changed how we're. Yeah. Oh, I appreciate that. All right. Well, let's get to know you a little bit. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
So right now I live in Farmington, New Hampshire, but I am originally from Hop Hog, New York, which is on Long Island.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've been in New York City a couple times, but
That's okay. That's really the main part of New York.
yeah.
I mean, upstate
No,
is
no.
beautiful, and no offense to Long Island, Long Island is beautiful too. I find that the people who are very sentimental about Long Island are people who are from Long Island, and that's myself included. My husband didn't understand what I was raving about until he himself.
Very cool. But and then did you guys meet in college, and that's how you kind of ended up here?
Yeah. So after 9/11, my parents, like the next day, got jobs up here
Oh,
and
okay.
moved very quickly. And we had vacationed up here. My parents legitimately said, "Hey, we want to move somewhere where nothing happens." And so they moved us up
This
to
is
New
it.
Hampshire. And
Yeah.
I really like it up here, which is why I stayed. I went to UNH, go Wildcats, and I met my husband on move-in day, and I've been traveling all around ever since. But I always end up coming back.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm never leaving New Hampshire. They're gonna have to if they'd have to force me somehow.
There's nothing, there's worse places to live. This is a very, very wonderful place.
Yeah.
We had an offer to move out of state, and I looked at my husband and I went, "No."
Yeah. No,
No,
don't blame you.
you can't take me. I'm sorry.
Now, what's one thing that everybody should know about you?
um, Gosh, I don't know. That I have a lot of really interesting stories that you wouldn't expect coming from someone like me, I guess. I should probably write a book. Like, I have sat down with presidential candidates. I have apparently done a lot of things and had ties to people that I didn't realize I had ties to until I grew up. And then I realized that that was not a normal way for someone to grow up. And I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, I have definitely lived a very unexpected life, and I'm not quite yet 30.
There you go.
Yeah.
I definitely am over that 30 threshold by a few years.
So I hear better after 30, so I'm very excited to see. I'll know in October.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we asked this question to everybody because it is the theme of the show, Let Freedom Ring, because obviously America means a lot of different things to a lot of
Yeah.
different people. What does it mean to you to be an American?
Being an American means acknowledging your privilege, and standing up for those so that way they can have the same rights as you.
I like that answer. I like that answer a lot. That's definitely a hot. We talk about that in the country right now because some people don't believe that they start on different levels than others.
Yeah.
So
I am. So my grandfather is from Puerto Rico, and my mom spent part of her life in Puerto Rico too. So I'm actually like one of the whitest people in my family. I have a lot of people who are darker than I am, and the difference in how I'm treated and how they're treated, if you want to bring that aspect of it into it, is very different. And so while I don't experience it myself, I have witnessed it from people very close to me.
All right, awesome. All right, well, let's get into current events. The first one, the Devin, Chauvin trial has begun. I don't know if I said his name right. The cop that had his knee on George Floyd's neck. George Floyd did pass away after. And I wish I wrote this down because it was it was 8 minutes that he had his knee on his neck.
I asked Google earlier, and Google told me 9.
9. Okay. Either way, lengthy time.
It was too long.
Yeah. Any thoughts on the trial so far? Do you think they're going to get a conviction? What's your take?
My take is a very interesting one. So I was in doctor's appointments for my toddler and then myself. So I was following on my phone today. And it seems like the defense is actually making a very unique argument, but not necessarily unique. I can see how they're trying to spin this. What they're trying to do is they're trying to take the emotional shock and impact away from the video that everyone has seen. And if you haven't seen it, it's not that I recommend that you see it, but it is something you should probably look at if it's something you're comfortable seeing. Basically, what they're trying to have Derek portray himself in court is a man who's respecting the law, and doing that, they're relying on what they call a snap decision. When you're a police officer and you're out in the field and you have something happen, you would kind of have to go with your instincts or make a snap judgment. But where I struggle with seeing how they're going to twist this or turn this or present this is a better way to say it, is he, as you and I have both said already, his knee was on the neck for 9 minutes. At what point does a snap decision last for 9 minutes, especially if the bystanders around are saying, hey, something's wrong, and they're the ones calling 911? And if you listen to the victims, if you listen to the witnesses are also victims because they are going through significant trauma as well, reliving it on the stand. And I don't know if they're going to get him off the hook. If they do, I would be curious to see what piece of evidence is the thing that does it. Is it how he presented himself in court that sways the jury? Is it the snap decision defense that they're going with, or is it something else that hasn't been presented yet? But
yeah, it's hard to say. He wasn't in danger at that point. I mean,
no.
And Floyd wasn't danger to him at that point.
No, and even so, like the witnesses themselves said, had he been in danger, like let's say he was on drugs, because I believe there are 2 different. Correct me if I'm wrong. Weren't there 2 different medical examinations? One done by the city of Minneapolis, and the other done privately by the family. And
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. And I remember the one done by the city says he has drugs in his system, and the one done by the family says he doesn't. So we have 2 conflicting exams. But let's say he did. Let's go with the city, right? An MMA fighter was actually one of the witnesses, and he named, I think it's called like a blood hold or something like that they did on his neck, which is meant to immobilize the user. At what point do you say, oh, okay, I'm hurting you now? You're not supposed to hurt the person. You're supposed to protect them, protect yourself, and protect the people around you. He was in handcuffs. He was immobilized. Get off of him. Sit him on the sidewalk and wait for reinforcements. Wait for the ambulance. Wait for someone else to come in. And someone can say, hey, Jill, it's easy for you to say this because you're not a police officer. Yeah, it kind of is. But at the same time, there hasn't been anything else that's come out that said this was okay. And if you look at the family seats in the court, each family was given 1 seat because of COVID. George Floyd has always had a family member behind the prosecution. Derek Chauvin has had no one sit witness for him from his family. And I think that just speaks more than anything else.
It's been pretty consistent across the board on this one between conservatives and liberals, and I've only seen, and even the moderates, I've seen a lot of the far right is saying, okay, well, no, but we all know what kind of goes on with the far right. But yeah, I think everybody's pretty consistent on this. So it's going to be interesting to see, what the results are, what comes back.
Yeah.
So good news. Vaccines are rolling out. I can actually sign up. Being 36 years old, I can sign up tomorrow. How do you feel about Yeah. What's your take? I know every state's a little different because I'm hearing people in like New York on Facebook really upset.
New
Seeing other
York is
people,
very
you know.
upset. Yes. So I got my vaccine already. I got my first shot on Sunday because I have medical conditions that actually have me qualify under Group 1B. So I guess you could say I was privileged or lucky in that regards. I'm excited. I am so excited. I was texting with my sister-in-law earlier today. I haven't seen my niece since Christmas 2019.
Oh
And
wow.
she is a completely different person now. And they haven't seen my son since Christmas 2019. And when this pandemic started, Charlie was 10 months old. He wasn't even a full year old, and now he's almost 2. Um, and
A lot of
so
development in that amount of
yeah, I
time.
missed out on so much. And I guess you could say, it was really cool seeing everything going on when I got my vaccine because I got it at the Speedway. And it
Oh,
was,
cool.
yeah, yeah. And so my appointment time was at 1 o'clock. And I went in at 12:20 because it's like, I'm going to get in there. I got to make sure I'm getting my shot. I had my arm all ready. My husband was driving me in case I had an allergic reaction because, like I said, I have some medical stuff. Um, and I didn't want to chance any of the medical stuff coming up and me not being able to drive myself home. And so 1 o'clock comes and 1 o'clock goes and we're still in line and I'm going, oh my gosh, am I going to miss my shot? Are they going to, like, what's going to happen? There were so many people there. It was 5 lanes of traffic all condensed down
Oh
to 1
wow.
lane. And I ended up getting my shot just shy of 3 o'clock in the afternoon for a 1 o'clock appointment. And I got in line at 12. And I wasn't complaining at all because the amount, just seeing how many people wanted to come out, it made me feel good and made me feel like we're all going in the right direction. Just wear a mask when you're not in your home.
Yeah, I agree. Now I've had very differing opinions on this show, and
Mm-hmm.
I've had a handful of guests. It's been a handful. I can't say it's consistently, but I've had guests that say, I've had guests say flat out, I'm not getting it. I've also had guests say like, I want to see how everybody reacts before I get it. Um, any take on people that not want to get it or they are wary of getting it?
I can tell you that if you're worried about getting it because of length of time that you'd be in line, I was actually an anomaly. Because it was raining that day and they were trying to get everyone through all at once. So it was basically appointments be damned, just come when you can come so we can get out of the rain. And getting the shot, I was very nervous to get the shot. I have a lot of allergies. I was worried that I was going to be one of the people who was going off in an ambulance. Thus, my husband was with me. But I still went ahead with it because the amount of testing that a vaccine has to go through in order for it to actually become a vaccine it's very rigorous. And you can think about back to Pfizer and Moderna when they were both in the original phases. They had to stop trials at one point. It's good that they had to stop trials. That means that they realized something was going on and they could fix it. And then it wouldn't have gotten approved if it wasn't safe. I definitely stand by what Fauci said. It's get your Fauci ouchie. That's what I call it.
Yeah, I like that.
Get your Fauci ouchie. It does hurt. I had my first shot. First shot, it was just like getting a flu shot. The needle's just a little bigger. Dead arm the next day, but I was still able to pick up my toddler and go about and do my life. I had some body aches, but it was no different than when you're getting a cold. And then today is day 2 after my shot because we're filming on a Tuesday and I got my shot on a Sunday. Great. It's like I never got it, but I have the immunity.
Awesome.
It's the second shot that I hear is a doozy. I do know that people I think the second shot is honestly what's making people really afraid because that's where you have the stronger reaction. Get the shot. Would you want someone who's would you want a kid to die of COVID? I know people say kids can't get COVID. They can. Would you want to give COVID to your grandmother? Would you want to get COVID yourself? It works like the flu shot where it's not 100% immunity, but it will reduce any effects. And if you're carrying it, you're less likely to transmit it. It all makes sense. And if you have any questions, call your doctor. because they will be able to provide better insight than someone on the internet like me about what the differences between all the shots are.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. My brother has had it. He's immune compromised. My soon-to-be sister-in-law has had it already. My parents have gotten it. So I recommend it too. And like I've said on this show, if it gets me to sporting events and wrestling shows, inject me. You can inject me in the head. I don't care.
You want to get back to normal? Do it. Just get the shot so we can get back to normal. Like if your biggest complaint is that we're not back to normal yet, if you don't want to wear a mask anymore, get the shot, because the more people get shots, the less time we'll have in masks and the quicker we'll be able to get back to normal.
No, agreed. Let's get into politics now. I want to talk about a few things because you have some experience with quite a few politicians.
Yeah, I do.
So I got a few questions here. You like I said, you've met a few politicians. Who have you met?
Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Mitt Romney, and Elizabeth Warren.
And on the advertisement for the show, that picture with you and Obama, you said that was in what magazine was that in?
That was in Life magazine before they went under.
That's a great action shot,
It's actually part of why I love living in New Hampshire. Barack Obama came to my high school. I was on the newspaper. I got to meet him. We got to spend some one-on-one time with him, which was really cool. And we got to watch the Secret Service play football with him as they waited for a pizza delivery in our field. He's a really down-to-earth, nice guy. Like 10 out of 10 recommend out of all the politicians I've met. Oh, and I've also met John Kasich. I cover both states. I look at the Democrat and the Republican because I vote for either party.
Understandable. Yeah, I was this close one time to like shaking hands with Obama, like at one of his rallies, and I was at John Kasich town hall, and he walked right. I didn't get to meet him, but I did meet Chuck Todd that day.
Oh, you did? I did. I have not met him.
He was just standing there, and like I don't know if people didn't know what Meet the Press was. I just walked up, was like, Chuck Todd. He goes, yeah. I go, oh, can I get a picture with you? He goes, sure. He goes, but you gotta say that Aaron Rodgers is better than Brady. I go, all right, maybe I don't need this picture, but we did get the photo op.
I'm in Packers country, and those Packers fans, those are something else.
Yeah, we're not even rivals, and it's like, what do you do? Come on.
See, I'm a Giants fan, so we are rivals, and I survived Packers country. That's all.
Now, who was your favorite? Who was your favorite? Any that you have met?
My favorites are Barack Obama. He's like legitimately, like, if you met him walking down the street, he would be the guy that would go, hey, 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 and saying hi to everyone. And he's very nice, very down to earth, very easygoing, but more importantly, he comes across as a human being when you meet him. There's also Elizabeth Warren. I loved meeting her. I went to a backyard barbecue and she was there. And I got to ask her a lot of questions. I was fresh off of maternity leave. And so I had all these different questions about how she would be supporting women in the workplace. And she was very receptive, absolutely wonderful. If I had to say someone, this is pre-Trump, someone that I wouldn't have liked as much, it was actually Mitt Romney. He did not come across as kind as you would expect a presidential candidate to be. I met him when I was 17, and we were in a room of people, and he said anyone under 18 needs to leave because you're not voting in November, and so therefore what I say doesn't matter to you, and I would rather just speak to people whose votes will count. And I remember that
shocking.
how many years later?
Yeah.
More than 10 years later. And here I am, a voter, and like when there's talk about him being going up for president again, I'm like, I remember that comment. I don't know if I'd vote for him, even though I do have some weird admiration for how he has acted over the past 4 years.
Yeah, he did kind of, but I remember like sharing a meme back in 2012 that said, I don't know, this is before memes were a thing, but it was Mitt Romney's like pointing his finger going, and I care about people. And by people, I mean myself. The
binder full of women.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's always tough for me to really get behind politicians that not just because I know a lot of people have problems with career politicians, but I also have issues, and I guess one of my issues too with Trump is that there's some people that have like started on third base their whole life, and they truly don't understand that. And when we had a guy like Barack Obama, Barack wasn't starting on third base, didn't really know his father. That you gotta admire a guy like that to get all the way to the White House.
Yeah, I still have a very deep admiration for Barack Obama. I really do. And if I want, I mentioned I had met Clinton. She's very nice. You would want to grab a beer with her. The TV doesn't do her justice, but Barack Obama, out of everyone, is my favorite.
Awesome. Good answer. And any other interesting stories? Is the Romney one pretty much the most interesting, or is there any other ones?
Let's see.
Because that's pretty shocking for him to say that.
Yeah, I do remember that. Watch, I'm going to get a cease and desist from the Romney campaign.
Oh, man, they're coming for Let Freedom Ring, I think.
I'm sorry if they do. No, Barack Obama was really great. John Kasich, when I met Kasich, we were living up in Alton, New Hampshire, and he was speaking at the American Legion. My husband and I were fresh off of our honeymoon. And we said, oh, Kasich's speaking tonight. Let's just pop in. Again, because we both vote down both sides of the aisle. We're independents. We don't belong to either Republican or Democrat, which is a beautiful thing about New Hampshire. I feel like I can honestly pick who I want to be president.
It's a pretty purple state.
Yes. And so we're like, you know what? Let's go in. So we met Kasich. We go into the Legion to go see Kasich, and the room stops. And you hear, young people! And my husband and I look at each other, and sure enough, we are the youngest people in the room. And they're like, quick, get her behind the podium. Get him behind the podium. We want them in every picture. We got to get the young voters.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's got to be what they do, because sometimes you look at it and you're like, you think it's first come, first serve, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah. They push people out of seats to get us into the podium seats.
That's awesome.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to listen and then scoot out the back, but I guess I can't.
Yeah. Did you guys get on TV at all, or?
Oh yeah, well, whatever local stations were covering the town hall meetings that day, we were on. We were in the paper because we were right behind him. We got one-on-one Q&A with him in front of everybody at the very start. Like, he opened up and he's like, I see we have some younger people here. And I'm like, oh God. And, that's great. He asked us about our wedding, where we were going on our honeymoon, things like that. And awesome. Kasich is another politician where I feel like he's genuinely a nice guy. For me, our politics didn't quite align, but had it come down to a certain orange politician or Kasich, I would have voted Kasich.
No, I agree. I actually started getting more behind Kasich because I didn't like the rise of the orange man. But yeah. Speaking of that, so Trump loses the last election. Obviously, he's gone kind of quiet. So we're a couple months into Joe Biden's administration. How would you say Joe's doing so far?
Joe has been looking at, and this is just from what I have noticed. I don't get the news every night because, screaming toddler. But when I do watch the news, I do see that he's looking at all the areas that we were upset with. We being the general American public. At the end of the Trump administration, we were upset with how fast or how slow the vaccines were rolling out. We were upset that we hadn't got our $2,000 checks that Mitch McConnell promised us and then took away. Like, there are a whole bunch of different areas that we were really, really not okay with. And those are the areas he has made his priorities. Something that has happened lately that I'm really iffy on is the children still being in cages. We really need to get the kids out of detention centers and to safety. But overall, I mean, if you look at Biden's approval ratings from his first month to his second month, because we are going into his second, third month now, everything is staying where it should be for him to possibly get reelected in the future. Whereas with our previous president, it was like all over the place.
It was. It really was.
Yeah.
I have me and my because I definitely lean very left. I make no bones
Yeah.
about that in the show, and I argue with my buddy back and forth, and he'll say, "Well, Trump did this, this, and this," and I go, "But at the end of the day, guy wasn't a leader. He was not a leader. I don't care
If
what you guys say he did that
yeah,
was great. He wasn't a leader."
in my family, so I guess you can say I also have a connection to Trump because my dad did my dad, when we lived in New York, had a carpet store, and one of his accounts was a Trump account, and he never got paid, or the business he worked for never got paid.
I've
We
heard
have
about
never,
this. I've
yes,
heard about this happen to businesses.
it
Yeah,
does
with him.
exist. It does happen. You can say word of mouth. You know someone who this has happened to now versus in the news. Um, and so we weren't really ever on the Trump bandwagon because we knew there were a lot of empty promises. Again, Trump Kasich, I would have gone Kasich. But I didn't vote for Trump at all.
I hear
I
you.
very proudly voted Clinton. But Trump is all talk, no action. And when you look at the vaccines, yes, under his administration, a vaccine was developed. However, there was no rollout plan. Everything was in shambles. And the rollout plan that we have now, it's not perfect. No. All states are at different levels. You have people at New York, like up to here with everything, and they just want their shots. That way they can go about their daily lives. And they have every right to feel that way. Same with Wyoming. And there's one other state that's behind too, but I can't remember which one right now. I know it's New York, Wyoming, and somewhere else. The vaccine rollout isn't perfect, but the Biden administration is really the one who initiated the rollout and making sure that we could get shots in arms. They've made sure we had enough. I mean, the Trump administration lied about how many vaccines we had.
Yeah. Now, your everyday Trump supporter is going to say to you, "Well, no, that's just the media flipping it on Trump." And now that Biden's president, the media is just it's just their mentality is hard to wrap your brain around.
I do have a neighbor it's very interesting because I live in a townhouse and I share a wall with someone who is a very, very strong Trump supporter. Like he tried to put up a Trump flag and we were all like, hey, that's against the guidelines for the HOA.
Yeah.
Even though I was very tempted to put up a Biden flag myself. And he and I have had this discussion, and I would say, hey, what news sources are you looking at? Let's see if you and I are looking at the same ones. I tend to look at PBS, BBC, NHPR, because those tend to show both sides of the coin. And I love Meet the Press because we have Republican and Democrats both presented there. If you're looking at just Fox and CNN, you're going too far in the opposite direction. And let's see what our news sources are and let's talk this out, because I'm always willing to have a discussion, because there are definitely parts where the left is wrong and there's definitely parts where the right is wrong. And what makes America great is we have the ability to say, you're wrong, let's talk this out. And that's something we need to utilize more.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree with that. Yesterday, Governor Sununu, last thing on politics today, he declared yesterday Vietnam Veteran Day. Good thing to do. It feels a little overdue. I feel like they came back and,
I'm actually getting chills right now. Think about all the Vietnam veterans you may know. They went into a war where the cards were stacked against them, and they didn't fully understand, they meaning the government, not the people who went to war as soldiers or were part of the draft. The government did not understand the Viet Cong, the Vietnamese, and how everything functions in the country of Vietnam. And the Vietnam veterans really deserve more than they've gotten. And so it's very, very long overdue.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And I'm glad, that we're doing that, at least in their state. Maybe other states have it. It was definitely a headline yesterday.
Oh, yeah. And did you see that Biden went to the Vietnam Memorial yesterday?
Oh, he did?
X, yep.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, my dad was just like a little bit too young. He just missed it as they were getting out. Yeah. So yeah, very, very. The whole thing is heartbreaking. It's a heartbreaking piece of history for our country, for Vietnam, for a lot of people. So, all right. Well, let's get into fan questions and comments because we got quite a few here.
Yeah.
First, Melissa Marie, and Melissa, that's what she goes on Facebook. That is not her last name.
No.
But she just said, "Yay!" So
Yes.
Melissa was very happy about this.
Yes, I was so happy to see that Melissa was happy. I saw her a few weeks ago because we potted and then saw each other, and it's always so good to see her.
Yeah. No, she's always great to see. Then from Emily, she says, "Duh, who's her favorite Disney villain?"
Maleficent.
Who is it?
Maleficent.
Now, what movie is that in?
Sleeping Beauty.
Wow, I haven't seen that. Yeah.
Okay, so in Sleeping Beauty, there's a horned lady with green skin, Maleficent. She is the best. And people think that she's just mad because she wasn't invited to a party, but I studied medieval history and culture. She wasn't invited to a christening, which was actually a huge deal. You invited everybody and your mother to the christening. Like the whole town showed up. It was a huge thing of disrespect they gave to her. And, she reacted accordingly.
I like that. I got to go back and watch because, I've always been obsessed with Lion King when it comes to Disney, Aladdin.
Mm-hmm.
For the cartoons, those were the only ones I watched them all as a kid. I got to go back. Maybe my niece and nephew, they're kind of into that stuff now. So
you have great taste. Lion King and Aladdin, they're absolutely wonderful movies that I will watch over and over again and never get tired of.
I could just watch clips of Robin Williams as the genie. You could just put all the clips together. He's so good.
Apparently, they did put all the clips together, and it's rated beyond R. Are you still there, Dan?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Sorry about that. We get this quick technical difficulties.
Hey, it's what happens.
Yeah. But yeah, he was unbelievable. Unbelievable talent.
A true legend.
From Me Trombley, she just said yes. So Me was very excited about this. Me sends me a postcard almost every almost once a month. So she's awesome. Very kind of her.
That is very
From Hussein Noor, he said pumped, pumpkin, pumped. Do you know what the reference is?
Yes. So we have seen very few people over the course of the pandemic, but Hussein and his wife, Kate, we saw them and we potted, and we last saw them in October. So for anyone listening, potting means we did not go anywhere for 2 weeks before seeing each other. We were we stayed within our home. Okay. We did not go out for anything. And then we got together when we knew we didn't have COVID. And it was October, it was Halloween, and my husband made a pumpkin pie, and Hussein is obsessed with it.
Very cool. No, that's I've had to do that my thing was always with my parents, because I definitely have seen them, and there were times where just very limited, if I was gonna see them, and that's a good idea to do that. You guys did that.
Yeah, we followed all CDC guidelines for when you're supposed to see someone.
Awesome. Let's see here, from Stephanie Hart, who my girlfriend asking questions. She's never asked questions for the show before, so she definitely was a fan of you being a Disney fan. Favorite Disney park?
Oh, well, it used to be Hollywood Studios, but they have changed it since I was last there. So now I'm going to have to say it's a toss-up between Epcot and Animal Kingdom. It's not that I don't like Magic Kingdom. I love Magic Kingdom, but I feel like Epcot and Animal Kingdom just don't get enough love.
Okay. All right. She also wants to know any tips for handling someone who hates amusement park lines, and I think this is in reference to me.
I was gonna say, get fast passes. Definitely, that's one way you can get through the line quicker. But if you don't like waiting in line, go at a time where there's next to no lines. I'm gonna let out my secret. I go the week before Thanksgiving. It's after New Jersey week, which is when New Jersey is all on vacation, and just before Thanksgiving, when everybody comes down for Thanksgiving. So I think I was there the 19th through the 25th, years and years and years ago, before COVID was even a thing. And the longest wait we had was 1 hour, and it was for the recently opened Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. Everything else was next to no wait. So definitely time your visit for when it's not peak hours or peak visitation. And I mean, if you are stuck going during peak visitation, like we're planning on going in 2022, we're staying in the Lion King suites.
Oh,
Damn,
nice.
so that's one of your movies.
Yeah.
Um, definitely like get those fast passes, put apps on your phone. Disney now has waiting in line apps and games you can play.
Oh, okay.
And even when you're waiting in line, I'm going to direct this right at you, Dan. Even when you're waiting in line, um, Disney makes the line very interactive, so you don't feel like you're waiting in line. Even waiting in line itself is an experience. So for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, there's games that you're playing as you're waiting. When you're in line for Peter Pan's flight, you have to try to find Tinkerbell, and she's flying all over the room, knocking stuff over in front of you. So it's really not as bad as your worst nightmares are making it seem.
Well, the thing is, because I've never been to Disney, I've never been to Universal, just never been to any. I went to Six Flags in 2005.
Okay.
And I go to Canopy Lake because I do love Canopy Lake.
I like Canopy too.
But I had said that, I went to Six Flags in 2005 and was like, I never want to do this again.
I don't like the
never
lines at Six Flags, no.
Yeah.
Terrible. Yeah, so Six Flags and Disney are not in the same ballgame. I would say that Disney is here, Universal is here, because they have overlapping Imagineers. Some Imagineers were at Disney, and then they left and went over to Universal, so they took some stuff with them. And then is Six Flags. Six Flags is down here with Canopy above it.
Okay, so Canopy, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I've grown up on Canopy Lake, so I've always loved Canopy Lake.
Part of why we moved up here is, yes, nothing ever happens up here, but we had vacationed up here every summer. So we were very familiar with Santa's Village, Canopy, and Storyland.
Oh, that's going to be great when you can, when you can take your kid there like that. Those were like my favorite things going up in that area as a kid. So,
oh, yeah. My dad tried to take him last summer, and I said no.
Yeah.
This summer, I said maybe. So we were graduating.
Yeah.
We will get your shot so I could take my kid to an amusement park. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. All right, let's get into sports now. You are a New York fan, and we're gonna get into what your favorite sports. Just Giants?
Just Giants. I'm not a Yankees fan. I was raised to be Giants, Mets, Rangers, and Red Sox, even though my parents are Brooklyn born and raised. My dad has been a lifelong Red Sox fan.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Are New England sports in general, in your eyes, in trouble? We've had the worst season the Patriots have had in 20 years.
Well, let's be real. That's because you guys signed Cam Newton.
Okay. So this is going to be interesting. He did have a rough season.
He had a rough season, and honestly, that's it. You could say that it's adjustments. You can say that it is whatever it is, but Cam Newton this season could not throw a ball, which caused the rest of the offensive team to try to compensate for him. And as Gisele Bündchen once said, people can't throw and catch the ball at the same time. She said that, actually.
She was mad. Yeah. I remember.
2002 Super Bowl, where the Patriots played the Giants.
Yeah. She was pissed. She was pissed.
So, and again, coming from a Giants fan to all of you Patriots fans who are very disappointed in this season, I will pass along my Giants motto, which is, it does get better at some points because there's always next season.
Fair enough. So I'm probably going to know what some of these answers are. Mm-hmm. What are some of your favorite sports moments?
Okay, so I've already said the 2012 World Super Bowl and the 2007 Super Bowl, because I was the lone Giants fan in a room full of Patriots fans. And
oh, God.
And I was brave. I was wearing like anti-Pats gear, like smack talking t-shirts.
Yeah.
And my husband can vouch for this. When I watch a sporting event like the Super Bowl, I get scarily intense. I only am typically intense about college football, which I'm a Notre Dame fan.
Yes, me too.
Yes, I know. That's one of the things we bonded over. I almost have a Notre Dame jersey. But that's for pre-COVID, Jill, not me. But when I watch the Super Bowl, I get scary intense. So, like, being in a room full of Pats fans, it's exhilarating. But actually, my favorite sports moment of all time was in 2017. I had never been to a Red Sox game. I had been to Yankees games. I had been to Brewers games. You can probably guess where I've lived based off of what teams
Yeah.
I used to spend every summer at Shea Stadium, may it rest in peace, um, watching the Mets. But this summer 2017 was when I saw my first Red Sox game in person, and I saw it with my dad, who I have mentioned is a lifelong Red Sox fan. He's not dead; he's still alive. And my dad had gone before, and it was just my dad and I used to we have a really special bond. We used to do road trips together all the time when I was younger and go on all these adventures. So it was like having another adventure with him, even though I was an old married woman. And seeing Fenway Park through his eyes was really, really cool. And so those are the moments that you can't put a price tag on. And those are the moments you should be thinking about when you go to get your vaccine.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I can tell you, my dad first took me to Fenway Park when I was in second grade, and I don't think that grass could ever look as beautiful as it looked in 1992. There was just something about the first time you see it. It's unbelievable.
I had been to Fenway. My very first time at Fenway Park was actually for a hockey game. It was UNH versus UVM. And I went with my in-laws who are UVM alumni. And my husband and I are UNH alumni. But we saw Fenway, but we were all the way up in the nosebleeds, and it was for hockey, and everything was covered in snow. This is like my first Red Sox game, and I got myself a Fenway Frank. And I got myself peanuts. And we just sat there. We had a good old time. I sang Sweet Caroline and I filmed it on my phone. And it was, get your shots. That way I could go to a Red Sox game, please.
Agreed there. All right. Well, let's get into pop culture. So the big news all over social media. I had to look this person up because I'm getting old and I'm not on with today's music apparently. But the Lil Nas video titled Call Me By Your Name, which is the name of a movie, actually, about, well, we'll get into what the movie is because I have some issues with that movie and it has to do with the age gap. But we can save that for now. But
the age gap, red flag for me too.
Because people are like, this is great, but I don't want to spoil this movie if people want to see it. But I did have an issue with the age gap. I definitely did.
If people want to see it, it came out in 2017. It has Timothée Chalamet in it, and it has Armie Hammer. It did really well at Sundance. There's an age gap, but it's not Kevin Spacey creepy.
No, I won't go that far. I'm not anything like that. But Call Me By Your Name, by Lil Nas X. Video is causing a lot of controversy. Lil Nas X is an openly gay rapper, which not traditionally, I mean, we don't know, but that's definitely been something in the hip hop culture that hasn't quite, I would say, caught up to the mainstream acceptance.
Yeah. And what's also interesting is he also collaborated with Billy Ray Cyrus on that song a few years ago.
That was him. Okay.
That was him.
I guess maybe I did know him.
I had to look that up because I saw the name and I was like, do I know him? I've been on the rock listening to kids' songs. Let me see if I know him. Oh, that guy. Okay. Yeah. But what's also really interesting is country music. It's progressing, but it has a very similar vibe towards the LGBTQIA community as hip hop does. So I find that after making a song that was a crossover between country and rap, and then coming out with this song, I felt like that was a really powerful thing.
Yeah. I mean, I watched the video artistically and very COVID safe because it seems like he played all the characters.
Yes.
But why are people so bent out of shape about it? Is it the ending of the video, or I don't know.
See, okay. The video can appear one way to some people and another way to other people. This video is actually really highbrow. I watched it and I was blown away by how many historical references there were, how many classical references there were. And it makes a huge statement the more you know about your classics like Plato and your history, and especially the history of Christianity. All of those things that I studied when I was an undergrad at UNH. Shout out to Professor Backrack and Professor Kauser, and Professor Price. But I can see initially that it could be offensive to some people because they're like, oh, here's a guy giving Satan a lap dance. With that being, let's break down the movie. I call it a movie because it's in 3 parts. Act 1 is the Garden of Eden. Spoilers for those who haven't seen it yet. Act 2 is the persecution, which takes place in the Colosseum, and then Act 3 is Judgment Day and being sent to hell. And how okay. I interpret. Do you want me to give you my lecture, or
no? Because I'm actually learning something. Because I just kind of took it for what it was. I'm not as familiar with that stuff, okay. So this is good.
Okay, so there's a lot of Greek and there's a lot of Latin. I don't speak Greek, but I do speak Latin. And so let's look at the first part where they're in the Garden of Eden, right? There's something written on the tree of life, and you have the serpent and you have Adam and Eve. Both are both Lil Nas, and how to say this? The phrase on the tree is really important. It's from Plato's Symposium, and I have the translation here. It says, after the division of the 2 parts of man, each one desiring the other half. Now, in Plato's Symposium, people are both male and female, and they're together. Kind of think of them like conjoined twins. And something happens on Earth that makes Zeus really, really angry. If you're a Broadway fan, Neil Patrick Harris's song in Hedwig and the Angry Inch actually gives a great synopsis of this of Plato's Symposium. So you could say that one half is male, one half is woman, right? But that's not necessarily the case, because there are some people where both their halves are male or both their halves are female. So Zeus gets upset, hides them, and they're forced to live separately from each other. But the only thing they want is to get back together. So if you think of that in the frame of the LGBTQIA community, it's really, really, it's a powerful statement. And it's actually, Plato's Symposium gets quoted a lot in queer studies classes. So it's supposed to, in Plato's Symposium, the division and then the longing, it shows the acceptance of love. It shows an acceptance of love for someone outside of themselves. It could be someone of their same gender. It could be someone of a different gender. It could be love is love. So it has no one true form. And that's really what happens in that whole first act. In the second act, the persecution, we see them, spoilers, in a Colosseum.
And we can spoil music videos. We're not spoiling a movie.
Yeah. No. So, and it shows a lot of parallels to saint stories. And I looked it up, and Lil Nas was raised Catholic and Christian. They are the same thing. People will say, no, there's Christians and Catholics. No, they're the same thing. Fight me. But fight me. I have a degree in this. So this actually goes back to saint stories and Roman, Judeo, and Islamic relationships back in the Roman Empire. So the Romans were accepting of the Romans believed that their religion was the primary religion, which was Zeus, etc., only it was Jupiter, and all the deities. But they were willing to accept religions like Islam and Judaism because they are passed from father to child, or have a patriarchal style of passing. Even though in Judaism it goes from mother to child, because it was familially based, they're like, you know what, this is fine. Like, ours is patriarchal, yours is, matriarchal, whatever. It's not anything weird. Then enters Jesus Christ, and he is like, hey, I'm the Son of God. Not saying that he wasn't. I was raised Catholic.
We're not taking a take on religion here. We're just explaining. Bill's just explaining.
Explaining everything. Yeah. And the Romans viewed that as like the redheaded stepchild with the piercings, and they're like, no, like this isn't the norm. This is different. And so when Christianity began to take a hold, they said, okay, we have to squash this because this is not the norm. This is different. This is not the patriarchy. This is not the tradition. And so that is why there was a huge persecution of Christians in the Roman Empire and then beyond, because they were just trying to keep things the status quo, and Jesus Christ upset that status quo. And so you see a lot of that in that Colosseum. That's what that represents, upsetting the status quo as it was. So then we go into the judgment, and there's a little bit of Boccaccio in there. I'm not going to go down Boccaccio because that's a lot of... but when you look at the devil, when he does make the descent into hell, because you see him start to go up, and then the sphere comes up through him, and there's a chance where he could escape it if he just pushed off. And he says, you know what? No, this is my fate. This is who I am. He grabs the spear, goes back through the Colosseum, and is sucked down into the pits of hell. And this is what has everybody talking, because he meets the devil. And the devil is sitting on a throne, and beneath the throne there is Latin. And you see it really quickly. It's like the 2-minute, 2:25 or something like that in the music video. And the Latin says, they condemn which they do not understand. And it's not devil worship at all. It's more of talking, like, if they don't understand, then they're instantly cast into hell. And originally the church was not, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a little controversial here, so sorry.
Sorry.
Looking at the history of the church, something I have a degree in. The church originally was not homophobic. That is something that evolved over time. So if you look at it from like the Middle Ages perspective, which is where all the references for this video are coming from, people of all genders could actually join a monastery, whether they were intersex, female at birth, or male at birth. And there were also marriage ceremonies, but they weren't called marriage. It was called, what was it? The making of the brotherhood or something like that. Hold on, I have it here. It was called, the brother making ritual. And that was the equivalent to marriage or a civil union. And honestly, that is what I interpreted him depicting with the devil. And saying, okay, you know what? You're going to persecute me for who I am, but I'm not going to change who I am. And thus he kills the devil and says, here I am, loud and proud. I am who I am, and that's not going to change. And so I thought that this video was very powerful in a positive way for the LGBTQIA community. The shoes, Nike has an issue with using the logo.
Yes, I did see that.
Putting the blood in the shoes, that's a little weird for me, but I get it.
Yeah.
And people are focusing more on is the devil aspect of it, but he also shows Christianity in a positive light. And he shows Christianity, and in the shoes, he also had heaven sneakers, and those sold out faster than the devil sneakers. And you know what? Who do you know right now in this economy who has $1,000 to spend on sneakers? Does it affect you? No.
No.
But like, I thought it was a great video. I thought it was very classical, very well done. And I think it's very, very powerful. And is it visually jarring? Yes, but it's not devil worship. It's him healing and him showing. It's kind of like Yuji Lee Yang's video that went viral over the summer, I'm Gay. He's a Try Guy. So if you liked the Try Guys from BuzzFeed, they have their own channel now. It reminded me very much of that in a very powerful way.
I think the song's actually pretty good too. Like just to take a, but I feel like that's a good breakdown because it's stuff that I was not aware of, but I wasn't, obviously I was not offended by that. I thought it looked pretty cool. Yeah. Overall, but no, that's good information to know. And at the end of the day, like, controversy creates cash. This is gonna make him more money. And it's almost like the people that are hating on it, you're gonna line his pockets, so.
Not everyone is going to like everything that you do. There are gonna be people who hear this interview and they're like, I don't like her. That's okay. Not everyone's gonna like everything that you do or everything that you say. But when you say something, say it with intent, say it with purpose, and that's exactly what he does.
Yeah, no, it's a good song. Away from the video is I'm trying to get into like today's music because I struggle with it. I actually like this. I do like the song. So.
What's your favorite music to listen to? I'm going to interview you now.
Oh, of all time? Wow. Right now, I do probably listen to more country, but I couldn't tell you all this who the country music stars are because I just listen to the radio.
Do you listen
But
to Jason Aldean?
Well, I was told that I look like him.
I know, I saw that on Facebook.
Which was like the most random thing. I'm standing there. It's my buddy's 40th surprise party, and I'm outside. You know, I was not down to go inside, so I was outside. Some lady comes up. She's like, "I got to tell you." I'm like, "You look like Jason Aldean." I go, "No one's ever told me that in my life." And I don't know if I believe it. I don't know what she was on, but it was pretty funny.
Side by sides. We'll get all of our friends on this. We'll have them do side by sides, and we'll see what photo you look the most like Jason Aldean.
Exactly. All right, but let's get into some one of my favorite things that we do on the show, top fives.
Top five.
Okay. Do you have? This is based. I don't know if you've ever seen High Fidelity, but he opened up a store called Top 5 Records. Yeah. So I started doing this like part of pop culture's top fives thing. Do you have a top 5 favorite TV shows?
Oh gosh, yes. It's just putting them down to 5.
That's the hardest. Yes.
I really like The Good Place. Like really, really, really love it. I haven't finished the last season because I don't want it to end. And it has ended, and I know that, and I have to come to grips with that. I really, really, really love Schitt's Creek. Here I am, basic white bitch, but I love Schitt's Creek. I love Dan Levy. Everything he touches turns to gold. I will buy anything he sells. I love Parks and Recreation. As I was getting ready, yes. I was feeling all like Leslie Knope. Let's see. I have 2 more. I do not like The Office. I'm one of those weird people. I'm sorry, but I do like
Park and Rec.
But I like Parks and Rec. Yeah, I'm really weird. Yeah, I think it's because I watched the UK version first.
This is a highly debated.
Well, okay. In my defense, I was living in the UK.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was living in the UK. So that's the first one I saw. And then I came back to the US around the time Jim and Pam got married. And I was like, oh, I should try to watch this. And I love the Jim and Pam wedding episode. Like, that one is my favorite. I have watched it. But the first season UK one is my favorite.
Fair enough.
And I honestly think it's just what I was exposed to first. But I do like New Girl. And then I love on YouTube, there's a channel called Fundy Fridays. I know it's not a TV show, but I love it. She does a deep dive into all the fundamentalist organizations, and she's a social worker, and she does it as she's doing her makeup, and I just find it so relaxing. Oh, and the First 48.
Yes.
Murder TV.
Oh, I have in Blank versus Blank. I do have a question for you that is almost not the same show, but related to it. Top 5 favorite movies?
Godfather. Really love The Godfather. Godfather Part 2. I really love, well, my son is ruining this for me because he loves it too, and he wants to watch it every day. The 1995 Pride and Prejudice. So we go from killing people to period dramas. I also really like The King's Speech.
Oh, underrated. That's not talked about enough.
That is a
great movie. Yeah.
That was actually filmed right by where I was living in London. I wasn't there when it was filming. I was there after. And then if I had to pick another one, While You Were Sleeping. It aged well.
Yeah.
Don't recommend sneaking into it, and saying that you're someone's fiance when you're not. But the way that it's written in the dialogue, the family's dialogue, that's what gets me hooked, not the actual love story.
Awesome. And last top 5, you have a top 5 favorite albums?
I can't narrow it down to 5. That's too hard.
Or do you have a favorite or anything that you listen to like over and over?
I love Simon and Garfunkel. I love Eminem. I like Sinatra. I love Missy Elliott.
I do. Yes. Missy
Yeah,
misdemeanor.
yes. And I will do anything for Lady Gaga.
Oh, and she
um,
had that great movie that she like. I didn't know she had the acting chops too.
I
You know,
haven't seen
so
it. So it came out when I was pregnant, and when I was pregnant, I was so sick the whole pregnancy that I could not look at screens. And so I didn't get to see the movie, and I heard it was really sad, and so I had postpartum depression, so I figured not the best time to watch something sad. um
shut it off in the middle if you're ever in that place,
yeah, I know
because you'll
what
be like,
happened.
oh, that's great.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know what happens, so I'm just waiting to be so happy that I can't stand it, and then I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch. And then if I had to pick another one, I would say anything by the Beatles or Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen, hands down, best concert I've ever been to. Get your shots, that way I can go to a Bruce Springsteen concert again.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, and a lot of people have that the albums. I guess that's been one of the hardest top fives for people to do.
There's
I don't. There's a lot.
Yeah, because if you want to talk about albums, I really like okay, weirdo, but I like you too. I love the Joshua Tree album. Everybody does
Oh,
because it's
yes. Yeah.
but and then if you wanted to do Bruce Springsteen, I would have to say Born in the USA. But every album except Tunnel of Love, I love of his. um,
Awesome.
yeah.
I do love some Bruce Springsteen. Um, all right, let's get into my favorite segment of the show, which is blank versus blank. There's no prep for this.
Oh
There's no
no, you
prep.
didn't send me this one.
No, you got to pick one or the other and say why. First one, Universal or Disney? Which theme
Disney.
park are you going? Okay, I think
Disney.
that was an easy one.
Universal has better rides. Disney fans all over clutching their pearls. Universal has better rides. I'm a coaster junkie. All the coasters are at Universal, but Disney has a better experience for more people. And so if you're traveling in a group and maybe not everyone likes thrill rides, Disney's a better fit.
Okay. My two favorite Disney movies, Aladdin with Lion King.
Aladdin.
Ooh, yeah, this would be hard for me. I don't even know if I could pick.
Aladdin.
Um, Robin Williams, is he the deal break the seals the deal there, or?
Well, yes, so there's Robin Williams there. But also for very sentimental reasons, even though the lyrics have not aged well and now are slightly racist. If you've seen the Disney Plus documentary Howard, you know that was the last Howard and Mencken collaboration before he died of AIDS. And so that has very, very sentimental things for me.
Awesome. I didn't know. No, I didn't. I'll have to look in. It's a documentary that you can watch.
Oh yeah, when you have a very happy day and you just can't stand it anymore, watch Howard.
Watch. Sounds good. Okay. So, and I don't have the Super Bowl names. One was 42, and I'm blank. There's so many Super Bowls at this point, but the Giants winning the 2000. It was 2008 was the year, even though it was 2007 season, and then they won again. The 2011 season, 2012 Super Bowl, again being the Patriots again. Which one, if you could only have one of those Super Bowls, would you keep?
Because I call him my brother-in-law. He's not my brother-in-law, but he's family. Because it would really annoy him and get under his skin, I would choose the 2007 one. But also because the 2007 one, I was the only Giants fan in our high school, with the exception of the janitor, who was from the neighboring town from me. He was in Ronkonkoma when I was in Hauppauge, and we moved up at the same time, not planned. Yeah. We were the only Giants fans in the building, and the next day we went on with all of our Giants gear on. We weren't supposed to win, and we won. My dad had flags flying from his truck,
Man.
and people were going, "Who is that guy with the Giants flags? And how dare he rub salt in our wounds?" The high from that one was just chef's kiss.
It was a brutal night. I was still at Plymouth State at the time, and ESPN was banned from our college apartment for about 2 weeks. We watched just the Celtics because if you remember, like the Celtics had the big three then. So
Yeah,
like in the Bruins, but like I didn't want to hear about football. I didn't want to talk about football until the draft. Like I was not doing it.
I was very lucky where I married a Giants fan, so thankfully I didn't have to choose whether or not Charlie would be a Giants or a Pats fan. He's just going to be a Giants fan. So he'll get his disappointment.
Well, who knows? Maybe you guys end up drafting someone randomly at 199 and takes your team for 20 years.
This past year was almost our year. Almost.
Yeah. Speaking of the 199 pick in the 2000 draft, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, both two big pieces of this Patriots team for the last, again, 20, we're talking 20 years. And this team has been in it. And
whoop, Dan, you still there? Uh-oh. Up. Where'd you go, Dan? Whoop, Dan, you there? It's because you mentioned Brady, isn't it?
I can see.
Okay, you're all garbled.
All right.
Oh, wait, you're coming through. Okay, keep talking to me. Okay, so we had Belichick and Brady.
Okay.
Two big people.
Who's more responsible for the success of the New England Patriots? Belichick or Brady?
Brady.
Didn't even pause. Okay.
No, Brady. This year shows it.
Awesome.
I am not a Brady fan. I run my own small business, and someone actually requested something with Tom Brady personalized through my store. My husband saw it and he's like, "What is that man's face doing in our house?" And I said, "Don't worry, I won't do this again." We are not Brady fans here, and maybe we hate him because we ain't him. I don't know. I will say, like, if you look at Tom Brady, walk on from Michigan, maybe that's why I don't like him, because he started at Michigan and Notre Dame fan.
I don't like Michigan either.
Yep. But I almost went to Michigan, but that's a different story for a different day. You look at him, he was a walk-on. He was originally called the GOAT because he couldn't run, and he ran like a goat hobbling. And now GOAT stands for greatest of all time. If you want to talk about comeback kid, you can't say comeback kid without Tom Brady. Jesus save me for saying that.
That's true. All right, good answer. Dateline or 2020 if you were to watch a murder mystery real life show?
Oh God, that's really hard. Why? It's like asking me to pick a favorite child. Yeah. Because they're both better than First 48. Say 2020, because that's the one I tend to watch more out of convenience.
Okay.
But they're both equally good, and I'm sorry, Dateline.
No, good answer. And last one, I think I know the answer, but your two favorite places, Disney World and I don't want to say this wrong, Edinburgh, Scotland. You can only go to one.
Edinburgh, hands down. Hills bleed bagpipes. The people are wonderful. Scotch is amazing. Yeah, no, if I didn't live in New Hampshire, I'd live in Edinburgh.
All right. Awesome. Maybe I'll have to look more in. I mean, I haven't done a lot of traveling, but at some point maybe I will when COVID does.
Have you seen Harry Potter?
Yes, but it's been a little while.
Okay. Harry Potter is based on the castle in Edinburgh. And it is like New Hampshire but on steroids.
Okay. Yeah, it might be my type of place.
It is. The food is good. The people are funny and nice and kind, just like you. The beer and the scotch is amazing. They have a thing called the Scottish Whiskey Experience, which is Disneyland for people who drink. And you sit in a barrel, and they hand you a glass, and all these ghosts. It's like a Hershey Park. All these ghosts tell you how they make scotch, and then you're ushered past the world's largest scotch collection, and they sit you in a chair, pour some scotch in your glass that you choose off of a scratch and sniff card, and then you watch a movie about how scotch is made, and then someone says, "Any questions?" And you're like, "Can I have another?"
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you, Jill, coming on the show. Where can people find your store?
So we're on Facebook at Bubbly Lamb Studio, but we're also on Etsy and Instagram as well. And we do, I say we, it's me. My husband does help me during high bulk orders. So we're about to have a whole bunch of etched glass items in for Mother's Day. We have some really cool stuff about to drop too for Father's Day. I'm working with an old distillery that has like old Jack Daniel's barrels. And so there's going to be some really unique gifting home decor items from there. But you could take a look at our shop. I always take custom orders. There's very few things I will say no to, only if they violate trademark or copyright. And yeah, so Facebook, Instagram, we're there.
Yeah, send me the links and I'll put them right. We'll put them right in the description. So, and anybody that wants to check it out, they can check it out there. But yeah, but Jill, I appreciate you coming on. This has been a lot of fun. We'll have to, once COVID, is under control, we'll have to have you in the studio in Merrimack.
I would love to be in the studio in Merrimack. I would have been there today if I didn't have a toddler.
Nope, totally understandable. So, but yeah, we appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to address the Soapy pre-op incident on Thursday. But until next time, let freedom ring.